We now have our second presentation, which will be given by Mr. Shirish Garurji. He is a senior fellow at Renewable Energy Technologies at TERI. TERI is the Energy and Resources Institute, which has its office in Delhi and a very large center in Gurgaon. So, Mr. Gurur has over 2 decades of experience in the renewable energy sector and is a very well-known specialist in renewable energies technology, energy planning, and renewable energy policy studies. I will now request Mr. Gurur to kindly uh, give his presentation.
Good afternoon. I hope I am clear. My voice is clear.
Absolutely, sir. Your voice is clear, sir.
Yeah, thank you. So I thanks a lot, Ashwini Kumar, for giving us this opportunity and sharing dais with such an esteemed, galaxy of speakers like Ms. Gauri Singh and Dr. Raj Lakshmi and Mr. Marathe, etc. I mean, I'll not spend time on giving every name, but I'm really delighted and honored by sharing dais with these experts. Uh, I will just share my screen, and I would like to thanks a lot. And
Sure, sir.
you have already given the brief introduction about TERI. It's a not-for-profit research institute, and I will talk little more at the end of the presentation. So we have been doing some studies on how do we go about the hydrogen economy. Now we had a very uh, good presentations on mobility sector, particularly from ARAI, and overall global review of what is happening in hydrogen sector from Ms. Gauri Singh. So that sets the tone for my presentation. So last almost 1 year or so, we are at TERI have been working on various scenario building for how the hydrogen economy can, be developed in India. Uh, is it only a hype or it is really looking at? So in the slide you can see, and I will not spend much time because everybody has explained. We can generate electricity from wind, solar, and biomass or hydro or other renewable resources. uh, we are really looking at energy carrier because this energy is cannot be stored as it and one of the energy carrier is of course electricity, and we are looking at hydrogen as the energy carrier come storage. And two couple of ways of using this renewable energy is to electrolysis, and we are also using the hydrogen to power, and we can generate electricity using hydrogen in 3 ways. Fuel cell, where it's a chemical kind of a battery. You can use hydrogen turbines like natural gas turbines, or and you can use hydrogen in combined heat and power plants, and you know use for generating it. We are also looking at a fuel based production, that is methane reforming, coal gasification, and biomass gasification. And we at TERI are also working on hydrogen production through biomass route, through algal route. But these are all research stage, and I think that is another way of generating hydrogen using renewable. Coal gasification and methane reforming have been used in industries for a long time. The problem with these is generation of CO2, and which is a GHG gas. Currently there are two thought processes: the gray hydrogen, which is used which is generated from, say, steam reforming of methane or natural gas or coal gasification. The CO2 can be captured and stored. So CCU, CO2 capture and store units. But there is that itself is not really going to solve the problem, because CO2 typically is stored underground in vacant oil wells or some mines, deep mines, etc. but there is always a fear that this will come out, maybe some geological activity, earthquake or something, it can still come out at any time. And so it is not a real foolproof solution. The foolproof solution is to reuse this CO2. And so one is really looking at CO2 storage and utilization. So carbon capture, storage and utilization, CCU. But I will not go deep into that. But that is another way of generating hydrogen with the conventional technologies and fossil fuel without getting into GHG emissions. Then of course you have storage, is one of the main issue with hydrogen. Being the lightest material, its molecular size is very small, so it can escape through many metals and materials. So you need special kind of materials and very high pressure vessels. So there is also thinking of storing again hydrogen in underground, particularly salt mines in Europe. That is one way. Then you have use in industry, then in synthesis of fuel for methanol, ammonia, and then which can then go into transport sector. You can use the hydrogen directly, inject in compressed natural gas or CNG pipelines, and use it in buildings for heating, cooling. That is something people are trying in Europe, and we are also, government is planning to do some percentage of in HCNG in India, and then applications like shipping, aviation. So we are really looking at large scale utilization of hydrogen. Now, if you look at a little bit of history, 1973 oil crisis started innovations in many areas, including solar and hydrogen. And of course, the hydrogen fuel cells were developed for space program particularly, and Apollo mission was powered partially by, hydrogen fuel cells. And uh, and also then in early 2000 there was focus on FCEVs. That is because battery technology was very expensive and lithium ion technology was not yet introduced, and you have only lead acid batteries which are very heavy to for transport applications particularly. So there was a lot of focus, lot of R&D on fuel cell electric vehicles and also direct hydrogen electric vehicles. BHU, Banaras Hindu University and IIT BHU, they did develop some storage, for onboard storage for motorcycles and three wheelers, using composites, and Dr. Srivastava ran a lot of vehicles on this. So there was, some R&D programs going on in India also, and globally also. But the late 2000 financial crisis kind of slowed down this movement till say 2010 or so. But then it started moving because renewable energy started moving fast, and also the need is felt that we cannot ignore climate change issues, and we need to switch from conventional fossil fuels in some period of time, a reasonable period of time. And that's where the hydrogen also started developing. And currently, as mentioned by Ms. Gauri Singh, there are 7-8 countries who have ambitious plan for hydrogen, and particularly Japan and Australia are looking at transferring hydrogen from Australia to Japan through sea route. And so these are really ambitious plans of scale. So falling cost of renewables also is resulting now in reduced cost of green hydrogen. So there is a vast potential of renewable resources which can give us a sweet spot for green hydrogen production. Now, our study, we did some simulation study using current cost, projected reduction in cost, and also the change in technologies, etc. And what we are, we have concluded, and this report is now will be was released a couple of days back on hydrogen economy by which is prepared by TERI. So cost of green hydrogen will start competing with fossil fuel technologies such as methane, steam methane reformation like natural gas somewhere around 2030. So you are looking at $2 per kg cost from off-grid solar around 2030, which will be competing with natural gas and coal gasification processes. Because currently these processes are not using the carbon capture and storage or utilization technologies, and if they start using that, the cost also they will go up, particularly in coal, and then the cost of generation from conventional current grid electricity is high because we have high percentage of fossil fuel based electricity, and grid electricity costs are quite high. What we are looking at is off grid, or one can say mini grids or small grids, which can be set up at far more attractive pricing, and this will generate low cost hydrogen, and it will also have benefit of decentralized applications, so you can generate it wherever required, and that probably will be a good strategy in future. So this is how we are looking at that the cost will come down in near future by 2030, and this is a projection, so it may even accelerate further, or depending on technology development. Now, if cost has to come down, one also has to look at how the hydrogen will be utilized and how the market for hydrogen will grow. Because if market for hydrogen grows, then the requirement grows. Then also the economy of scale comes into picture. So currently, our demand is about 6 million tons per annum, mainly for fertilizers and refinery applications. So there is hydrogen required in some food and other industries also. What we are also looking at is steel industry, which is hard to abate sector for decarbonization, because it uses coal or coke for reduction process to produce steel, and that produces a lot of carbon dioxide. So companies like Tata Steel, and there are global steel companies who are looking at hydrogen-based reduction process, which will be integrated for steel manufacturing in coming years, and that will definitely give a lot of boost for hydrogen utilization. So we are expecting about threefold requirement up from 6 to something like 18 million tons by 2050, and most of it will come from industry, and industries like you can see here, low carbon industries, where ammonia, refining, methanol, steel, and transport and power will be a small part of it.
का फोटो है ना, सब पुराना फोटो लगा है, और मैडम बड़ा यंग सी दिख रही है, अभी बुढ़िया हो गई। मेरा ही फोटो ऐसा है।
Excuse me, I think there is.
हाँ बोल रहा था ही नहीं, अच्छा पता ना उसने नेट से ढूंढ करके लगा दिया।
नेट में आता होगा,
ये पीएमआई का फोटो है।
एक फोटो खिंचवा लीजिए सर, क्योंकि आपका हाथ ट्वीट में आ रहा है ना।
तो
घर में मैं भेजा फोटो मेरे भाई को, सही है, पीएम मोदी कुछ लिखा हुआ है, हाँ तो और सबको लोग यही बोल रहे, मोदी का इनिशिएटिव
डिकार्बोनाइजिंग लद्दाख।
So same, we are looking at cost of ammonia.
Sorry, Mr. Girish ji, I think some people whose mics got on during your presentation, they disturbed it. Sorry for that.
Yeah.
Yes. Please continue, sir.
Yeah, I hope. Okay, okay. I was wondering how to tackle it because
Yes, sir,
anyway,
absolutely.
thanks a lot. No problem. Let us continue. I hope my screen is available.
Absolutely, sir. Your screen is
Screen sharing.
available.
So one is looking at ammonia production and steel industry, which will drive growth in hydrogen demand, followed by refineries and methanol. And the main new growth sector within the industry is likely to be steel, which is right now not using hydrogen. And we are then looking at ammonia production cost also coming down, the using both the solar and different type of technologies, grid electricity, round the clock renewables, that is basically renewables with other storage, maybe pump hydro or large scale battery storage, and then you have some combination of solar and storage of rock formation for hydrogen or steel tank storage. So these are some of the cost estimates for 2030 based on our detailed analysis, which you can probably access some details, more details through our report. Now, what is also important is use of hydrogen for transport using either. So we have compared the overall efficiency, conversion efficiency of fuel cell electric vehicles and battery electric vehicles. Now you will find that the in hydrogen electrolysis is about 70% efficiency. So if you look at electricity perspective, 100% electricity will give you 70% in terms of energy utilization, and 30% is loss. Then you have the other losses, and so overall efficiency, if you look at the end of the thing, is about 22% in FCEVs, whereas in battery electric vehicles the same efficiency is around 73%. What it means that for smaller vehicles, battery electric vehicles will be cheaper and more energy efficient. But when you really look at long term, some of these are going to be cost effective or even energy effective. So total cost of operation, if we are looking at different time frames, 2020, 2030 and 2050, for petrol diesel vehicles, CNG vehicles, electricity and hydrogen vehicles, you will find that four wheelers, in case of four wheelers, it is still very expensive to use hydrogen until
So
2030.
your presentation cannot be seen on the screen now, sir.
Cannot be seen. Okay, it's okay.
Yes, sir. It's now back. It's
Yeah.
now back.
So,
You can see.
I
Yes.
was just going through the study which we did on total cost of operation for four wheelers and trucks, and you will see here very clearly, in case of trucks, by 2030 itself, you will find that hydrogen is competitive to diesel, and maybe by 2050 it will be one of the cheapest option for fuel in terms of long distance applications and heavy duty applications. This is also important to note that these applications need a large capacity of fuel requirement, and that's why hydrogen probably becomes more cost effective. The second, what is also important is hydrogen as a storage. So if you are really looking at hydrogen as a short-term storage, then probably it is not cost effective. But if we are now looking at more and more green energy coming into grid, so grid connected solar and wind generation, today it is around 6 to 7%, and the moment it goes above 80%, then the hydrogen storage as energy storage becomes cost effective compared to battery storage. This is how our study has analyzed, and but system cost also. So by 2050, so one has to see that how much percentage of electricity coming from variable renewables, particularly wind and solar, which are our main renewable energy resources for power generation. So when the percentage goes above 60 to 80%, we will have hydrogen as a cost effective storage system. So, in short, the areas where direct electrification, so this is shows, the different applications, and for which where hydrogen will be competitive or partially competitive. And you can see for two-wheelers, three-wheelers, it is all direct electrification which is effective. For buses, partially you will have hydrogen coming in picture, and but for short-term storage or industrial applications, you will see that hydrogen can become cost competitive, and there can be good market for hydrogen, even green hydrogen for these applications. So what we are looking at is how we can reduce the fossil fuel consumption by 2050. So currently we import 38% of our total energy, primary energy, which includes heating, cooling, and other applications also. And 30% of that import is coal for power generation, 85% is oil, and 50% is natural gas. But so 85% of our oil requirement is right now coming from imports, and 50% of our natural gas. And if we go for domestically produced hydrogen through renewables, we can substantially reduce these requirements by 2050 if we have an ambitious green hydrogen plan, and we can reduce our total import cost around $20 billion. So if we really want to achieve something like this by 2050, we have to put in place policies, regulations, R&D, and other efforts right from today. And I think government is also seriously thinking about it. There is a committee for new hydrogen mission, which is being launched by the central government, and they are working directly on that. And we hope that will come out soon. Then what we recommend is we should step up manufacture of hydrogen and fuel cell technologies, and moving from research to commercialization. And I'm happy we have Dr. Raj Lakshmi, who are already their research center is already moving in this direction, and we are looking at working on joint projects with them and with ARAI for actual applications of hydrogen fuel cell in electric vehicles and other applications. So these are some of the numbers, from where we can have some head start, like companies like Siemens and all, which are already present in India also. And then there are some Norwegian companies who are working on hydrogen for steel applications. And also it will need a lot of investments, which is we estimate around 45 to 60 billion dollars between now and 2050. And we can of course leverage some of the research expertise from IITs, IOCL, R&D, which is working for a long time on this, then MNRE programs, and also with policies of Make in India and Atmanirbhar Bharat. So what it needs, we feel that it needs great cross-sectoral coordination between various ministries, Ministry of Oil, Natural Gas, Ministry of Petroleum, Coal, Electricity, Power Ministry, MNRE, etc. Also, a lot of international collaborations and funding support for value chain demonstration and development and capacity building. as somebody has mentioned in the question, that Germany has set up now hydrogen filling centers, about 488 or so, so to create market for transport. You know, in India, of course, that may not be a priority. What probably we should looking at is hydrogen generation and storage, and also bulk use of hydrogen at one place, for example, in industries, which will create a competitive market segment to start with. And we should also have support to shift from pure R&D to commercialization. Dr. Raj Lakshmi will, I think, speak more about it. There are also, we have to create market through policies, mandates, and standards that Dr. Gauri Singh mentioned about RPO for renewables, which created a certain market push. Something like that is being thought about in ministry. We are also looking at standards, because hydrogen is not an easy, fuel to handle. It is explosive. So standards, ARAI and BIS are working on, having some standards for utilization, storage, etc. And we have to target some industry activity which will create large demand for hydrogen, and then optimize the deployment in from system-wide perspective. So that's our kind of recommendation to this. Um, Quick, what we have been doing at TERI since long time. We have been working on hydrogen energy systems in early 2000, and before that we have fermentation of biohydrogen from sugar, and we have been generating hydrogen and running a fuel cell pack of 2.5 kilowatt capacity. Of course, this was discontinued because of funding and other issues. But we have been having hands-on experience on hydrogen. We have tried biogas coming out of sewage waste, and with a fuel processor which we have developed, we generated hydrogen for this fuel cell pack. We are also doing, as I mentioned, development of fuel cells early in 1990s. There was fair amount of success, but we have not really continued with it right now. So right now we are working on biomass route for hydrogen generation, and we are also working on maybe developing some applications for hydrogen joint under joint projects, and we are happy to collaborate with industry and research institutes to develop new projects and initiatives on hydrogen. We have also collaborated with a Norwegian company for setting up a center of excellence hydrogen. There is a research proposal which is pending for approval. We are also collaborating some MOU we have with electrolyzer company for generating hydrogen. So and then since last almost 6 months, we started some policy brief for Government of India, and now this report on 16 December which we have published. We are also working with International Policy Institute of Japan, where we will be organizing a third seminar in February, March for hydrogen fuel cell. And we have last year we had a very good workshop in February 2020 where we had Toyota displaying their hydrogen fuel cell vehicle. And also there was a good interaction between Japanese experts and Indian experts, and we look forward to good participation. This year it will be hybrid, because we will have some conference on online plus in physical presence at most likely in Delhi. So these are some of the efforts which we are taking, and we look forward to more interaction with industry. Thank you very much. I will also mention here my team which is working, Mr. Wilhal and Rajneet and Shruti Dayal. They are my team members who are working on hydrogen fuel cell initiatives in TERI, guided by Mr. Girish Chetty, who is our program director, and Dr. Ajay Mathuri, the Director General of TERI. So I will stop here and thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for that great presentation that you gave. Can you hear me,
Yes,
sir?
yes. Thanks a lot for this.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much for that presentation. Sir, we have a few questions if you would be willing to answer some of them, sir.
Yeah, sure. I'll be happy.
We have a question from Miss Neha Bajaj, who is the managing director of Scroll Mantra Private Limited. Her question is that in terms of FCEVs, you say, sir, that the long haul trucks would be greatly benefited by fuel cell technology. Would that would mean that along the highways you will have a lot of hydrogen refueling stations?
Yes.
Wouldn't that be a convenience benefit for the small passenger carriers to actually have convenient hydrogen stations located, hydrogen refueling stations located across the highways? And if we talk about the efficiency versus convenience, wouldn't it be that convenience would supersede efficiency?
Good question, I will say. See, the whole idea is, as you have seen in the beginning, the because of the current development which has happened in battery sector, the electric vehicles have become cost competitive, even for petrol and diesel vehicles. So suddenly you find that electric vehicles have taken precedence, and there is a big market plan for by different companies. So in case of hydrogen fuel cells, still the technology particularly is not very cost effective, and there are other issues in manufacturing and scaling up. If those are addressed, then the cost of smaller vehicles may also come down. What we are looking at is there is a certain threshold for cost, and everything ultimately will revolve around costing, unless there is a compulsion to use particular technology, or there are other benefits, other incentives, or policy or regulations coming picture. For example, there is a policy for scrapping vehicles now. Now, if you are scrapping vehicles, then new vehicles become, you may have benefit for new vehicles in different technologies. So that is the thing. So yes, and secondly, the for long haul vehicles, the number of pit spots, like number of fueling stations required, are less because they cover longer distance before refueling is required, as compared to the cars and four wheelers. So that may be the the criteria. Uh, but yes, we are not saying that cars will not be profitable. They definitely will be. Plus, if you look at Indian scenario, the four wheelers are primarily used for city and urban transportation, and still the use of four wheelers for long distance traveling is still much less as compared to mass transport like railways and buses and other things.
Coming to sir, your just statement about railways. Thank you so much for your answer. We have one more question, sir, from Ms. Kirti Khanna, who is the Deputy General Manager at NTPC. Her question is very short and to the point, sir. She asks, as Indian Railways is one of the major energy consumers, is TERI also working with Indian Railways?
Well, yeah, we have been working, and in fact, we did very interestingly audit of Indian Railways for water consumption, for bogie cleaning and other applications in the stations, and that was where we started, not for energy as such, but Indian Railways have been doing a lot of energy related audits. I'm not sure whether we have done a direct study with Indian Railways, but we are sure there are, and then they are also looking at electrification and also integration of solar for railway applications, especially for metros and other applications.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for your time and for the wonderful presentation that you gave.
Thank you.
And thank you for answering the questions of the audiences also.
Yeah. If there are any questions, and I'm happy to be associated.
There are a couple of more questions, sir. One question was asked to you, but it was answered. Which it is by Miss Namrata Sharma, who's an energy consultant. Her question is: which technology would you recommend, PEM or alkaline?
I'm not really qualified to do that, and right now there is not much. Probably Dr. Raj Lakshmi can answer that question better. She is a hardcore technologist in that area. So excuse me.
Yes, sir. Sure, sir. Sure, sir. There is one more question, which is based on your slide number 8.
Okay.
This is from Mr. Ashish Pathak, who is the product manager at Thermax Limited. So his question is, the TCO analysis, based on the TCO analysis, FCEV seems to be more economical for buses and trucks.
Yes.
So does this call for a mixed strategy of EV for cars and FCEV for buses and trucks?
Yes, I think that is a very good suggestion, and that's what we also feel. Because particularly for a country of our India's size, you may find you will have to have diversified mix of technologies and fuel mix, for example, to be competitive and to keep the overall cost under control. But yes, that is a very valid point.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your time, and thank you so much for the presentation and answering questions of our audience.
Thank you. I will go off now. There.
Sure, sir. We would hope that you would stay at the audience, sir, for our panel discussion.
Yeah, definitely. I would like to listen to NTPC and also Dr. Raj Lakshmi and others. Definitely.
Sure, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your time, sir.